Hello and good day, folks. Today is July 14th, 2026, and we're going to get into this WNBA cap. Wager Detective was 2-0 on both his calls yesterday between the Sparks and the Dream. He called the Sparks. Actually, it was 1-1. The Sparks were getting 8.5. I called the 8.5. The line had gone up to 9.5. So they ended up losing by exactly 9. So if you would have took the 8.5, you would have lost by a point. If you would have waited till right before game time, you were getting the 9.5, you would have covered by a half point or lost by a half point, depending on when you got that bet in. And the game covered the total. It went over, cleared the margin by like over 20 points. So Wager Detective picking up with the WNBA with the Major League Baseball in hiatus for the All-Star break. The All-Star game going on tonight. I will say I do believe that there's value with the American League to win this. And primarily I like Cease, and I just don't like the way that Sanchez has looked. And I think the American League's just got more batters, more depth, more guys, and nothing to take away from what the National League has. But I just think American League value, it should be interesting. So let's get into this cap. The Mystics versus the Tempo. Let's start off with the Mystics here. And before we get into that, be sure to follow Wager Detective on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Set alerts on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, leave comments everywhere. Let's get into this cap. We're going to talk about the Washington Mystics. They're 11-10 on the year. They're scoring 81.2 points per game. They're giving up 84.2. They're 13th in points for out of 15 teams in the WNBA, and they're only giving up 84.2 points a game, which comes out to third best in the WNBA. They're coached by Sydney Johnson, and it's the Mystics 11-10. We look at their offensive rating; they're 13th in offensive rating, but they're third out of 15 teams in defensive rating. Their net rating is minus 3.7. And then when we look at the head-to-head, the Tempo, Toronto Tempo, we know they're a first-year team in the WNBA. But the Mystics, they're 2-0 versus the Tempo this year, winning 86-85, and then beating the Tempo 68-65 in Toronto. So 2-0, but only +4 differential in those two wins. If we look at the Mystics, they are 6-5 on the road this year, 3 over and 8 under that 171.5 that's set tonight. The Mystics are a 1.5 point favorite, and the over-under is 171.5. Juiced a little bit more to the over, minus 112 to the over, 171.5, and then the under's coming back at minus 108. And again, the Mystics 6-5 on the road this year, minus 65 point differential, 3 over and 8 under. They're scoring 78.2 points per game in those 11 road games this year, and they're giving up 84.1. If we look at their average score, which is 78.2 on the 11 road games, they've scored that number 5+ times. They've scored that number 5 times in those 11 games. When we look at their opponents, who score 84 points a game in their 11 road games this year, the Mystics' opponents have scored 84 points or better 5 times in that split. Comes out to 162.3 points per game, and the Mystics, between their wins and losses, are minus 5.89 points per game average over those 11 road games this year. If we look at the Mystics, they are 6-3 in their last 9, but their point differential is even. So 6-3 in their last 9 for the Mystics. Point differential even in those last 9. 1 over and 8 under in those games, and they're scoring 81 points a game in their last 9 to their opponents' 81 points a game. If we look at that 81 points a game in their last 9 for the Mystics, they've scored 81 plus 6 times. And if we look at that average score for their opponents in the last 9, which is 81 points, their opponents have scored 81 plus 3 times. So a little bit of an edge there, a little bit more consistent to that number. We look at what they have done against the East this year. They are 6-4 against Eastern Conference teams. 6-4 plus 6 point differential. They're scoring 81.2 points a game to 80.6 for their opponents. And in those 10 games versus the East, they've scored 81 plus 6 times, and their opponents have scored 81 plus 6 times. So pretty split down the middle there. and again, only plus 6 point differential in a 6-4 record versus the East this year. Now, the situational split here for the Mystics is going to be a home to road with 1 day off. And this year in that split, they're 0-2. So when they have a day off and then they hit the road, they are 0-2. They're minus 33 point differential there, scoring 60.5 points a game to 77 points a game for their opponents. Comes out to a minus 16.5 points per game average, and the average score of those two games is coming out to 137.5. So if we look at that and we just analyze it, they're 0-2 in that split with 1 day off and then on the road. Minus 33 point differential between those two games, and both games went under the total of 171.5 in that split. So when we look at that side of the split, automatically I look at the Mystics. They beat the Tempo twice this year, and now you're going to face them for a third time, and you only beat them by a total of 4 points between those two games. You're good on defense. You're not necessarily good on offense, and you're 0-2 in the split where you go from home to road with a day off in between, only scoring 60.5 points a game, and your average score on the road this year in 11 games is 78.2. Now, when we get to the Tempo, Toronto Tempo, surprisingly enough, Wager Detective found that part of the owners of that group, of that team that bought the team, is Serena Williams and Kyle Lowry. The Lowry ownership isn't as much of a surprise, but Serena Williams is part owner of the Tempo, coached by Sandy Brondello, who has a 281 and 194 record in her career as a coach, and she's a two-time champ. So with a 10-13 record versus an 11-10, I got a team that's at home that has already lost to the Mystics twice, by a total of 4 points. So I gotta think the Tempo are going to be chomping at the bit here to avenge those two losses. They're in good ownership with the people of the winners that they're with, that own them, and then they got a good coach that's a two-time champion, Sandy Brondello, 281 and 194 record for her. When we look at the Toronto Tempo, they're scoring 89.7 points per game. That's fourth best out of the 15 teams in the WNBA, but they do give up 92 points per game, which puts them at 14th. They are they're 5th in offensive rating, and they're 15th in defensive rating. They're minus 2.9 rating altogether. That puts them at 8th in the WNBA. And if we look at the net rating for the Mystics, they are 9th at a minus 3.7. So the Tempo got a little bit better net rating at this point in the year. Now, when we look at what the Tempo have done at home this year, they are 6-7. 6-7 minus 5 point differential, 6 over and 7 under in those games. And it really is interesting to know that they're only minus 5 point differential. In their 13 home games this year, they are scoring 87.4 points a game, and their opponents are scoring 87.8. So their average score of 87 for the Tempo in their 13 home games, they've scored 87 5 out of those 11 games, 87 plus 5 out of those 11 games, and their opponents have scored 87 plus 8 out of those 13 games. So for the for the Tempo, again, they're averaging 87.4 points at home this year. They've scored 87 plus 5 times. Their opponents are scoring 87.8 points per game this year when they play at home, and their opponents have scored 87 plus 8 times. So when we look at the Tempo in their last 9 games, they're 3-6 minus 38. So as we said, for the Mystics, they're 6-3 in their last 9, but their point differential is even. We look at the Tempo, they're 3-6 in their last 9, minus 38 points differential, 6 over and 3 under in the last 9 games for the Tempo. And in their last 9 games, they're averaging 91.4 to 95.6 for their opponent. Comes out to 187.1, and they are minus 4.27 points per game average between their wins and losses. So I think the thing that stands out is they're scoring 91.4 in their last 9. The Mystics are scoring 81.1 in their last 9. And as we said, with the split for the Mystics, they are 0-2 this year on a day off and then hitting the road, only scoring 60.5. So it looks like for me the tempo they can score points, but they give up a lot of points too as well. So it should be interesting to see how this all pans out. Now, when we look at what the Tempo have done against the East this year, they are 5-4 versus Eastern Conference teams, plus 3-point differential, and they're scoring 91 points a game. So their last 9, they're scoring 91.4, and against the East in 9 games, they're scoring 91 points a game, but they're giving up only 90.7 points per game against teams for the East in those 9 games, whereas over their last 9, they've given up 95.7 points a game. So they're giving up less by 6 points versus the East this year. And like we said, the Mystics are 6-4 versus the East, and they're only giving up 80.6 and scoring 81.2. So I could see a path to where the Tempo are going to score in this game. They're looking for revenge. And when we look at their 9 games versus the East this year, they're averaging 91 points a game, and over in their 9 games versus the East, they've scored 91 plus 5 times. Their opponents have scored 91 plus 6 times. So pretty consistent, fairly consistent about what they're scoring in their last 9 and what they score on the year. Like we said, they're scoring 89. Tempo are scoring 89.7. They're a high tempo team. They get up and down the court quite a bit, and across all margins they're giving up points, but they're going to be going against, like we said, a Mystic team that is only giving up 84.2 points a game, which is 3rd best in the WNBA. But on the road they're giving up 84 points a game as well. So pretty consistent there. It's going to be a matter of clash of styles. Can the Tempo find ways to... I think the thing that's just standing out for me is the fact that the Mystics have won twice against this team that's coached by a good coach. They're going to find answers. But, as we get further in this cap, I do get a little worried about certain scenarios in this game. We look at the Tempo in 1 day off and then at home this year. So when they have a day off and then their next game is at home, they are 2-4 this year. Minus 51 point differential, 4 over and 2 under in those games. They're scoring 85.2 points a game to 93.6 for their opponents. Comes out to 179 points per game. So if we look at that, and when we look at the split for the Mystics, when they have a day off and they go the road and they have a day off, they're minus 33 points differential in 2 games, only scoring 61 points a game. But you look at the Tempo, when they have a day off and then their next game is at home, they're scoring 85.2 and they're giving up 93.6. So can the Tempo come out and play even just a good quarter or 2 where they can just play good defense? Because I think if they do, they're going to be able to score closer to that average of what they're scoring. I think the thing that stands out for me this game is Brittany Sykes is not playing. She's still out, right? We look at, Sykes is out. She's a guard. She's been out since June 16th. And in that time, the Tempo are 3-5 in those games without her. And they're scoring 91.5, but also they're giving up 93.5. Comes out to 185 points a game. And she's been out since the 14th with a left plantar fascia. And she's the leading scorer on the team. She scores 20-plus points a game, 4 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. So I think it's just a contrast of what do you expect from either one of these teams when it comes to what you think or who you think is going to score here. So it's going to be a contrast to that to find out, can they be consistent in that regard? And to be honest with you, I think they can. I think the thing that stands out here for me is they're going to find a way to score, even without Brittany Sykes. I just want to see here. They're going to be playing the Mystics. Now, did they see both times that they played the Mystics in this 85-86 loss? Let me see something here, because I want to see what did Sykes have in this game. What did Sykes have in this game? Brittany Sykes had 20 points in one of the meetings, right? And where's the other one at? Washington. And then they played them in the first game of the year where they lost by 3. Sykes played in this one, I'm sure. Oh, no. Yeah, Sykes did play. Okay, Sykes played in that game, and she scored 14. So in 2 games of playing, you're missing 17 points a game average that you're going to miss in this game. I guess when I'm really looking at this, I don't see this game necessarily getting the 171.5 because of what the Tempo do, or what the Mystics do on the road off of a day off and then hitting the road, scoring 60.5 points a game. And, you know, they've been playing, listen, at the end of the day, we look at the Tempo, they've played pretty well. I mean, look at their last 2 games. They've scored 95 and 93. Now you have a day off. This is going to be your 4th game in a row. Actually, longer than that. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th game at home in a row with no, you know, with the Dream on deck. So you'll have a little time off before you play the Dream. You lost to the Valkyries. That's not bad. You lost to the Wings. Again, without Sykes, not bad. You look at the Wings. The Wings are a good team, 16 and 8. You look at the Valkyries. They're 17 and 7. You look at the Mystics. They're 11 and 10. They beat this team already, guys. I'm just gonna go with it. I'm gonna call, even though they don't have Sykes in this game, and she scored 17. She's averaging 17 against the Mystics in 2 games this year. But I feel like this could be a chance for them to get good. I think they're going to find a way to still score, and I just think they're going to win this game, and that's going to be the call here for Wager Detective. Wager Detective calling the Toronto Tempo to win this game. You could either take that or you could take the +1.5, because I did look at some of their scores. They do play in some games where they could just lose by 2 or lose by 1. Now, if you look at it, you're getting +1.5. You're getting +100 at even money, and then you're getting the +1.5 -110. I would take the +1.5 just for the simple fact of anything could happen. You could lose by 1, and is it worth is it worth 10 cents to not have that in your back pocket? So, you know, you could be down, you could be up by 2. You could be up by 2 and they come down and hit a 3 late. Anything, and a missed free throw at the end, tie score, whatever the case may be. I like the Tempo in this game primarily because of this. I like them because they've already lost to this team twice. Now, with that being said, Sykes played in both of those games. She's not going to play here, but they are 3 and 5 without Sykes in the last 8 games, and they're scoring 91.5 points a game, and they're giving up 93.5. I don't think they're going to give up that average tonight because, again, we're dealing with a Mystics team that's just not. They're not a scoring team. They average 81.2. Guys, give me the Tempo in this game to win this game, and as my main selection, +1.5. Take the 1.5, lay the -110, and then I like the under 171.5. This is Wager Detective. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Set alerts on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube. Leave comments everywhere. Guys, always remember, Wager Detective loves all his fans out there, present and future. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the follows. Leave some comments. Leave likes, guys. Help push Wager Detective along. I love you guys. And today's July 14th, 2026. Wager Detective calling the Tempo +1.5 and under 171.5. This is Wager Detective. I'll talk to you soon.